Yellowstone's stunning thermal features hide a deadly secret, water that can boil you alive before you even realize you're in danger. What you're about to witness are the final moments of 5 people who got too close to nature's most beautiful death traps. It was July 15, 2019, when Hayes Coleman, a 34-year-old freelance nature photographer from Denver, Colorado, arrived at Grand Prismatic Spring in Yellowstone's Midway Geyser Basin. Known for his meticulous attention to detail and cautious approach to dangerous shoots, Hayes had built a reputation capturing geothermal landscapes for National Geographic submissions. Standing 6 feet 2 inches tall with an athletic build, he was accompanied by his assistant Mira Vasquez, a 29-year-old photo technician who managed equipment logistics. The morning conditions seemed perfect for photography. Light winds at 12 to 15 miles per hour created intermittent steam patterns across the famous rainbow-colored spring, while the early hour meant fewer tourists crowding the wooden boardwalk. Hayes carried his carbon fiber tripod and mid-range zoom lens, planning to capture the bacterial mats from approved vantage points without leaving the designated walkway. Grand Prismatic Spring, measuring 370 feet in diameter, maintains water temperatures between 160 and 170 degrees Fahrenheit near its accessible edges. The spring's neutral to alkaline chemistry creates the vibrant colors tourists flock to see, but the scalding water remains deadly to human contact. Park signage clearly warns visitors about thin mineral crust and the dangers of stepping off boardwalks. As Hayes positioned himself at the safety rail to frame his shot, a sudden gust drove thick steam across the boardwalk, temporarily obscuring his depth perception. He shifted his right foot closer to the edge and extended one tripod leg past the rail, seeking a better angle. When the shot composition proved inadequate, he reached forward to retract the equipment. The tripod foot had sunk into soft cinder deposits beyond the rail. As Hayes instinctively leaned forward to retrieve it, his left boot lost traction on the moisture-slicked wooden plank. He toppled sideways, straddling the rail as his right leg punched through the fragile mineral crust off the boardwalk. His right leg plunged to mid-calf depth into 165-degree water at the spring's edge. Third-degree burns began developing within seconds through his hiking boot and wool sock. The scalding water immediately penetrated the leather, causing severe tissue damage to his entire lower leg. Hayes braced himself with both hands on the wet cinder formation, but his palms contacted near-boiling runoff channels, sustaining deep burns across both hands. Steam rose directly into his face as he struggled above the water. Each breath drew superheated vapor into his lungs, causing thermal injury to his upper respiratory tract. His coughing and gasping only worsened the inhalation of hot steam, creating dangerous swelling in his airways. Mira and another tourist immediately grabbed Hayes by his jacket and waistband, carefully keeping their own feet on the boardwalk while pulling him back over the safety rail. His right hiking boot remained stuck in the spring, tearing free with skin and sock material adhered inside the leather. Hayes collapsed onto the wooden planks with extensive circumferential burns covering his right lower leg and severe contact burns across both palms. His breathing had become labored with an audible wheeze, indicating significant airway involvement from steam inhalation. Bystanders immediately called 911 while providing basic first aid. Following thermal burn protocols, they avoided applying cool water to prevent hypothermia, instead covering the wounds with clean, dry materials and monitoring his breathing. Park medics arrived from the nearby basin area within 25 minutes, immediately providing oxygen and initiating rapid transport procedures. During evacuation, Hayes' airway swelling continued progressing, complicating his breathing. Despite aggressive medical intervention, he succumbed to his injuries at the hospital. The official cause of death was severe thermal burns complicated by inhalation injury and shock, directly resulting from contact with near-boiling alkaline water. The incident reinforced existing National Park Service safety messaging about mandatory boardwalk compliance in thermal areas. No new photographer-specific policies were implemented, as existing permit procedures already included comprehensive safety requirements. Hayes Coleman's death served as a tragic reminder that even experienced professionals can fall victim to momentary lapses in judgment around Yellowstone's deceptively beautiful but lethal geothermal features. But Hayes wouldn't be the last to underestimate the deadly power lurking beneath Yellowstone's colorful surface. It was August 3, 2015, when 8-year-old Violet Alcott arrived at Fountain Paint Pot in Yellowstone's Lower Geyser Basin with her parents, Dana and Eric Alcott, both 42-year-old attorneys from Minneapolis. Violet was a precocious child with bright red pigtails, standing 4 feet 1 inch tall. Known for her insatiable curiosity about science and nature, she had spent months reading about geysers in preparation for this family vacation. The Alcotts had planned this trip as rare quality time together during their 2-week summer break from their demanding legal careers. They arrived at 2:15 p.m. on an unusually busy Tuesday when 3 tour buses had converged, creating crowds of over 200 visitors along the boardwalk system. The wooden walkways were designed to protect both visitors and fragile thermal features. Fountain Paint Pot's mud pots contain acid sulfate waters reaching 160 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. The thick clay-like mud bubbles continuously, creating an adhesive mixture that can trap anything falling into it. The acidic content, with pH levels around 2.8, adds chemical burn risks to extreme thermal hazards. Strong sulfur odors filled the air as gases escaped from the bubbling surface. At 2:47 p.m., while Dana and Eric were distracted reading informational plaques and photographing the colorful formations, Violet became separated in the crowd. Her natural curiosity drew her to colorful bubbling mud 15 feet from the viewing area, beyond a rail-free boardwalk segment where protective barriers were absent. Driven by childlike wonder and unaware of the lethal danger, Violet approached the boardwalk's edge for a closer look at vibrant mineral formations surrounding the active mud pot. As she knelt and leaned forward to examine what appeared to be pretty colored dirt, the thin mineral crust gave way under her small 65-pound frame. Violet slipped off the boardwalk onto unstable terrain surrounding the thermal feature. Her left leg slid into the mud pot, where 180-degree acidic mud immediately coated her calf and thigh through cotton leggings, penetrating the fabric within seconds. The superheated mud adhered like molten clay, continuing to burn as she screamed in pain and terror. The thick consistency created powerful suction, making extraction difficult, while each desperate movement brought more scalding mud into contact with her small body. A nearby visitor noticed her distress and extended a trekking pole toward her, unable to safely step off the boardwalk. 2 adults carefully pulled her back to the walkway, but her clothing remained saturated with the adhesive, near-boiling mixture that continued causing damage. The cotton fabric held heat against her skin, continuing the burning process even after extraction. Quick-thinking bystanders used a pocket knife to cut away mud-soaked clothing, but extensive thermal damage had already occurred across her small frame. Steam and sulfurous fumes at face level caused Violet to cough and struggle for breath. Hot vapor exposure increased respiratory complications, adding to severe burns covering 35% of her small body as her condition rapidly deteriorated. She lost consciousness on the boardwalk as her core temperature spiked to dangerous levels. Prolonged contact with 180-degree acidic mud caused vital organs to begin shutting down from thermal shock. Her parents found her within 90 seconds of the accident, with Eric suffering minor burns to his hands while helping remove remaining mud-soaked clothing. Emergency services were contacted immediately, but the remote location and crowd conditions complicated response efforts significantly. An emergency medical helicopter arrived within 25 minutes, but Violet's condition had deteriorated rapidly during the critical response period. She was pronounced dead during transport to the hospital, succumbing to severe thermal shock and multiple organ failure from extensive burns. The tragedy prompted immediate safety improvements at Fountain Paint Pot, including higher, more secure barriers around thermal features accessible to families with children. Enhanced visitor education programs emphasized constant parental supervision in thermal areas. Violet Alcott's tragic end highlighted how quickly Yellowstone's stunning thermal displays can turn lethal for unsuspecting visitors. Her story would become part of a growing pattern of deaths that continued to plague the park's most dangerous areas. It was September 12, 2018, when 17-year-old Kai Peterson arrived at Norris Geyser Basin with 3 friends during their senior skip day from Bozeman High School. Kai stood 5 feet 10 inches tall, with a muscular 170-pound build from wrestling. Known among his 15,000 Instagram followers for dangerous stunts and urban exploration videos, he had a reputation for pushing boundaries others wouldn't dare cross. His companions included Miles Rodriguez, 17, and Jada Chen, 18, who often served as his camera crew for social media content. The group drove to Yellowstone specifically to create viral content by getting closer to geothermal features than typical tourists, despite knowing the risks involved. They arrived at 4:30 p.m. when visitor numbers were lower and ranger presence minimal. Kai had researched online forums where thrill seekers discussed secret spots for dramatic photos near active thermal features, deliberately ignoring multiple warnings about ground instability and lethal temperatures. Norris Geyser Basin contains Yellowstone's most dangerous thermal features, with acid sulfate waters reaching 190 to 199 degrees Fahrenheit. The Steamboat Geyser area is particularly hazardous, featuring thin silica crust concealing numerous small vents and runoff channels connected by underground thermal systems. The acidic waters, with pH levels between 2 and 4, create chemical burn risks beyond extreme heat. The seemingly solid ground consists of fragile mineral deposits that can collapse without warning, dropping victims into concealed pools of scalding water. At 5:15 p.m., while Miles and Jada filmed from the designated boardwalk, Kai climbed over the safety rope barrier near Steamboat Geyser. He wanted dramatic photos on what appeared to be solid pale crust, approximately 12 feet from the main thermal vent. The surface looked stable, but underground thermal activity had weakened the mineral deposits through continuous heating and cooling cycles. Multiple springs and runoff channels flowed beneath the deceptively solid-looking crust, creating a network of hidden hazards. As Kai posed with arms raised for the perfect shot, the thin silica crust gave way without warning. At Norris, most hidden pools are narrow but deep. When crust collapses, it often behaves like a trap door, dropping the victim vertically into a confined vent rather than leaving them waist deep. The collapse initiated under his right foot and rapidly spread, dropping him waist-deep through the fractured surface into a concealed hot spring, measuring 195 degrees Fahrenheit. Instantaneous third-degree burns developed on both legs and lower abdomen. His wrestling shorts provided no protection and disintegrated within seconds from extreme heat. Kai pushed down with his hands on the unstable rim, attempting to use his upper body strength for extraction. However, his palms contacted near-boiling runoff water, sustaining severe burns across both hands and forearms. The wet, crumbling edge provided no stable grip for leverage. Steam enveloped his face as he struggled above the waterline. Each panicked breath drew hot, acidic vapor into his lungs, causing thermal injury to his respiratory tract and dangerous airway swelling that complicated breathing. His friends shouted from the boardwalk but couldn't approach due to unstable ground conditions. Miles threw his belt toward Kai, but distance and crumbling terrain prevented effective leverage for rescue attempts. As Kai continued attempting extraction, the rim crumbled further, briefly increasing immersion depth and exposure time. Prolonged contact with scalding acidic water caused extensive tissue damage as the solution broke down skin and muscle tissue. Exposure to 190 to 199 degrees Fahrenheit acidic water causes near-instant incapacitation. Most real Yellowstone victims lose consciousness in under 20 seconds due to thermal shock rather than ongoing struggle. Within 2 minutes of falling through the crust, Kai became unresponsive from extensive thermal burns, severe inhalation injury, and shock. His body systems failed as core temperature regulation collapsed under the thermal assault. Miles and Jada immediately called 911 while warning other visitors to stay away from the unstable area. Rangers established a safety perimeter and used specialized equipment staged from the boardwalk to extract Kai, but he showed no signs of life upon recovery. Medical evaluation confirmed death from severe thermal burns covering 45% of his body, complicated by inhalation injury from acidic steam exposure. Kai Peterson's death demonstrated that athletic ability provides no protection against Yellowstone's thermal hazards. His pursuit of social media fame cost his life in an area where thin crust conceals scalding water just inches below the surface. This fatal incident revealed the lightning-fast nature of geothermal emergencies, where survival windows close in moments rather than minutes. The next casualty would prove that neither wisdom nor years of outdoor experience could guarantee safety against Yellowstone's most deceptive thermal traps. It was June 8, 2017, when 72-year-old Emerson Price arrived at Morning Glory Pool in Yellowstone's Upper Geyser Basin for his final grand tour of the park. A retired high school biology teacher from Phoenix, Arizona, Emerson stood 5 feet 6 inches tall and had visited national parks annually for over 30 years as his cherished retirement hobby. Known for his methodical nature and extensive geological knowledge, Emerson always followed park regulations meticulously. His careful approach had earned respect from fellow travelers throughout decades of exploration. However, he suffered from early-stage macular degeneration affecting his peripheral vision, though he compensated well with prescription glasses and deliberate movement. This solo trip represented his farewell tour before his vision deteriorated further, something he had planned meticulously for 8 months. Weather conditions included morning fog reducing visibility to 30 feet, with wet boardwalks from overnight condensation creating treacherous, slippery conditions throughout the thermal areas. Morning Glory Pool maintains neutral to alkaline chemistry, with water temperatures ranging from 150 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit near the margins. The distinctive blue center and orange bacterial mats create stunning displays, but the scalding water beneath remains absolutely lethal to human contact. At 6:45 a.m., Emerson approached the pool during quiet morning hours, carefully navigating the wooden boardwalk slick with moisture from thermal steam. Fog drifted intermittently across the area, reducing contrast and making depth perception challenging for someone with visual limitations. He carried his prized vintage film camera on a neck strap, a security precaution he always took in potentially hazardous environments. Positioning himself at the rail, he began photographing the pool's distinctive colors through shifting fog patterns. When the Wilson family approached with their 2 children, Emerson courteously stepped sideways to allow better access to the prime viewing spot, a gesture of politeness that would prove fatal. The combination of wet planks, fog, and impaired peripheral vision created dangerous conditions. As he sidestepped to clear space, his left heel slipped off the moisture-slicked plank at the boardwalk's edge. Emerson fell sideways toward the pool, his age-related slower reflexes preventing balance recovery. His right forearm and shoulder contacted hot runoff water at Morning Glory's margin, reaching 160 degrees Fahrenheit. The sustained contact caused deep partial and full-thickness burns to his arm and shoulder. The scalding water destroyed skin tissue and penetrated deeper into the muscle. He reflexively propped with his left hand on wet cinder formations, sustaining additional burns from near-boiling water film coating the surface. Steam rose directly at face level as he struggled near the pool's edge. The hot vapor caused immediate respiratory irritation, with superheated steam injuring his upper airway and throat tissues. His camera swung during the fall, briefly snagging on the boardwalk structure until Andrea Wilson freed it. The family immediately pulled Emerson onto the boardwalk by his waistband, keeping their feet safely on wooden planks. Emerson lay with extensive burns covering his right arm and contact burns on his left hand. Bystanders cut away clothing near burn areas to prevent continued heat retention against damaged skin. His breathing became increasingly labored as airway swelling progressed from steam inhalation. The combination of vapor exposure and advanced age created complications that younger victims might have survived. Rangers provided oxygen and initiated rapid evacuation, but Emerson's condition deteriorated during transport as respiratory complications worsened. The hospital confirmed death from severe airway burns and shock, complicated by significant scald burns and age-related physiological limitations. The incident led to reviews of boardwalk non-slip measures and continued warnings about hazardous conditions during morning hours when condensation is heaviest. Emerson Price's death demonstrated that experience provides no guarantee against Yellowstone's thermal hazards. His methodical approach and 30 years of safe exploration couldn't protect him from momentary loss of footing. Even the most prepared visitors can fall victim to circumstances beyond their control. The final tragedy would involve a young scientist whose expertise couldn't save her from the park's deadliest thermal trap. It was October 14, 2016, when 23-year-old Hazel Delaney arrived at the mud volcano area in Yellowstone's Hayden Valley for what would become her final research expedition. A graduate student in geochemistry at Colorado State University, Hazel stood 5 feet 4 inches tall with an athletic build and had been conducting thesis research on extremophile bacteria in thermal environments. Known for her brilliant analytical mind and sometimes reckless dedication to research, Hazel had published 2 papers on thermophilic organisms and held a special research permit for sample collection. Her supervisor, Dr. Lionel Chen, a 52-year-old principal investigator, had arranged mandatory check-ins every 30 minutes via radio communication. Hazel had worked in Yellowstone for 6 weeks, collecting samples from designated thermal features under supervision. However, she had grown frustrated with limited access to pristine sampling sites that could yield breakthrough discoveries for her dissertation research. On this morning, Hazel decided to work alone during early hours, believing her extensive safety training and specialized equipment would protect her. Weather conditions included intermittent snow flurries and 20 to 25 mile-per-hour winds, creating frost on mineral formations and reducing traction on treacherous terrain. The mud volcano area contains dangerous acid sulfate features, with thick mud reaching 170 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. The acidic content, with pH levels around 2 to 3, creates severe chemical burn risks beyond thermal hazards. The adhesive properties can trap victims, while hydrogen sulfide emissions add toxic inhalation dangers. At 5:30 a.m., Hazel approached the main vent carrying her 6-foot telescoping sampling rod and protective equipment. Her laboratory boots provided insufficient traction on frost-covered mineral deposits surrounding the active feature. She positioned herself at what seemed a safe sampling point, but a wind gust shifted her footing onto thin crust adjacent to the bubbling mud. The surface concealed unstable ground, weakened by thermal activity. The crust fractured without warning, and Hazel's left leg plunged mid-thigh into scalding, acidic mud, measuring 185 degrees Fahrenheit. The adhesive mixture coated her leg through protective pants, with heat transfer continuing through the fabric. She braced on the rim, but it crumbled under pressure. The powerful suction created by dense mud prevented extraction, trapping her leg deeper in the superheated mixture. Hazel used her sampling pole for leverage, but it skated across slick frost-covered center, providing minimal lift. Each struggle brought more scalding mud into contact with her hip and upper leg. Steam and acidic gases rose from disturbed mud, creating toxic clouds at face level. She began coughing as hot acidic vapor entered her respiratory system, causing immediate irritation and potential chemical burns to her airways. She signaled on the radio for help, but the transmission broke due to wind interference and desperate movements. Prolonged exposure to near-boiling acidic mud caused extensive thermal and chemical burns as the mixture broke down skin and tissue. After repeated extraction attempts, Hazel partially freed her leg but slipped back, extending total exposure time to several critical minutes. A combination of severe burns, toxic vapor inhalation, and shock overwhelmed her systems. She lost consciousness at the mud volcano's edge as her condition rapidly deteriorated from multiple trauma mechanisms. Dr. Chen arrived for the scheduled check-in to find Hazel unresponsive. Following protocols, he remained on stable ground and called emergency services, understanding that entering the thermal area would create additional casualties. Rangers coordinated extraction using poles and ropes from stable positions. No personnel entered the dangerous zone during recovery. Medical evaluation Confirmed death from severe thermal and chemical burns, complicated by acidic vapor inhalation and shock. Hydrogen sulfide exposure was considered contributory to her rapid deterioration. The incident prompted immediate protocol revisions, mandating buddy systems, continuous radio contact, and strict adherence to designated sampling locations for all university geothermal research programs. Hazel Delaney's death demonstrated that scientific expertise provides no immunity against Yellowstone's most dangerous features. Her pursuit of research cost her life, where even trained professionals can fall victim to unforgiving hazards. Thanks for watching. Want to see more? Click on your screen now.